Hi there, this is Dr. Phyllis Edwards. We're from The Widows Speak. I'm the widow, and there are lots of us out here, 11 to 13 million. I wanted to do this so that whomever watches it, if you have, even if you're not the widow, maybe you have a relative, maybe you have somebody, a friend that needs to hear some of these things. What I go through is different than what everybody else goes through, but there are some commonalities, there are some similarities. I've been thinking a lot, we have a lot of quiet time, and I've been thinking a lot about grief and about the quiet and about some of the isolation. There's lots of time for introspection, probably too much. And sometimes you have questions, and those questions, I don't know, they may go unanswered until, we actually find ourselves, in heaven, hopefully with Jesus, and we can find out what truly took place. But I want to try to change my perspective on grief. It's hard because that love that was so deep and so strong, it really breaks us apart. But what we need to do is put those pieces back together again and find a way to make us tougher, stronger, but also more aware of what other people are going through. So this is a series and a time now where we talk to experts. And we have an expert that really, I would say, has a double major, if you will. Her name, this is episode 11, by the way. Her name is Simone Velasquez Hoover. She has a resume in the financial world that is truly impressive. She has done things like tax compliance and planning, dispute resolution, exit and succession planning, business validation, forensic accounting, insurance. She has been a CFO, and she was a part of major Fortune 500 companies in the financial world. So at that time when she was doing all of this, and I think she still keeps her hand in it too a bit, she was in a world that, she really was different. She was set apart. But she really balanced that quite well. Being in that world, Simone, and welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. That was quite something. You must have walked through many, many challenges to get to those places. You obviously had goals. You had a phenomenal education, and you were ready to use it. Can you tell us of just how it felt a little bit? It must have been a trial, because I felt it when I became a superintendent. Only 3% were women.
Right.
And you thought you were going to join some big club, but it didn't work out like that.
Right.
You were never part of the club, really.
Yeah.
And I wonder, just from your perspective on that as a personal note.
Well, I think any of us, certainly in our age group, we did open doors, maybe break some barriers when we started in our respective careers. I was one of 30 people who started in a big 8 accounting firm. There were 8 at that time, one named Arthur Anderson. In January of that year, 3 of us were women. And, in those days, it's different today.
Yes,
it's different today.
Definitely.
But now over half the graduating class every year in accounting are women.
Right.
But in those days, it was pretty rare.
Yeah, I agree.
There were clients that didn't want women working on their jobs. There were cases where we weren't allowed to be assigned for whatever reason. And there was a very strict dress code, which is one of my fondest memories, because one of those 3 women, a good friend of mine, Linda, came to work one day in a pink suit. We were only allowed to wear suits.
Navy and gray and black.
Navy, gray, and beige were the colors that were allowed, and
Right.
Linda chose pink that day.
Oh, boy.
And they sent her home.
Oh, my goodness.
Reminded
There
me
you
of
go.
elementary school.
Exactly.
But it was wonderful work. You worked
Loved to
extremely
work.
hard. You had no personal life.
Right.
But you had
you had your job, and that was great.
fascinating clients,
Right.
Cutting edge, whatever was the thing, you were involved in it. And so you learned a great deal. And the first thing I did when I left that firm is I bought pink and electric blue and bold colored blouses. I still wore the beige suit,
Right.
but with colorful blouses.
Have it, something
So,
underneath.
that's
To
right.
say, this is who I am.
That's right. Yeah.
Great. So, with all this that you did, and it's just amazing, are there some things that you might just think about off the top of your head that you might like to kind of share with ladies that are just beginning this process of going through being a widow, and you've got mountains and mountains of the paperwork, and you and I have talked about this little brochure that I did, but I'm sure it's kind of like down here compared to where your level is, and just one or two key thoughts to have them think about.
As I was preparing for today, I went through a lot of the notes that I've accumulated over the years, and I saw a quote that I thought, this is good. I'm a dog owner, and someone said that grief and the journey that you go through
Right.
as you're grieving is much like taking your dog for a walk and letting go of the leash. You just don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know. And everybody's journey, while there are many similarities, is going to be a little different. Based on what came before in terms of who they are as an individual, as well as the relationship that changed when the partner left.
Right.
And so you really kind of need to be open to the twists and turns and surround yourself with a team of people, one, who love you, you'll need that support, and two, who know the things that you don't know.
Right.
I've always believed in staff your weaknesses,
Absolutely.
and that's very true in this experience as well. I get a lot of clients. I started this when I was doing forensic work, divorces, either business divorces or, marital divorces.
Sure.
And many times I would work more closely with the client because it was more than just about counting the numbers.
Right.
There were
It was their life.
There were other things
Yeah.
involved, and I remember saying to one of my early clients, I said, "This is like being a painter. You have a white canvas in front of you now,
Right.
and you get to paint a new painting, and you may not like the one that you just started, so you
Right.
can paint over it.
Right.
This is your time to create the next life." But it really opened my eyes to the many different ways that we experience loss,
Right.
and everybody needs different support.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you started what I see kind of now as your ministry, which we'll talk about in a minute. You basically started that while you're working in these companies or working on your own in a financial world.
Right.
Because I can imagine there's people, especially if you're at those levels, that they have their whole life is caught up in this. And, it could be nasty. Who's going to get this? Who's going to get that? Oh,
Sure.
are you going to get the house, or how much are you going to pay me? But in addition to that, the loss that the people feel
Right.
is very overwhelming. It's not just loss. I don't even want to say just loss. It's not, as I have loss from a spouse, my supporter, my person for over 50 years, that's huge. But there's also loss from jobs. There's loss from your lifestyle. There's just loss of who you are, I think is a very big one, because you build yourself.
Your identity.
Your identity
Absolutely.
is very, very much caught up in that.
Right. And often, I hear this a lot, it's the loss of friends.
Yeah.
If
Sure.
you used to go out to dinner every Friday with
Right.
3 couples.
But
and
now you can't go.
Now you don't, either not because they necessarily
Yeah.
say you're not welcome, but because you don't feel
You don't
like
feel
you
welcome.
fit anymore.
Right, you don't. Yeah.
And it's amazing to me. I don't know that I would react that way, but a lot of people experience that.
I never thought I would, but you have to be in it before you know. Before you know how you're going to react, just like anything else. So you were in where? Connecticut, or you were in the northern area, weren't you?
We lived in Connecticut for 3.5 years, and then decided to come back to Florida.
Okay.
Moved to West Palm Beach, Florida, where I had my children. And then 2 years ago, we sold our home in West Palm Beach and moved here to Ormond.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're back in Ormond area. Your husband of how many years?
44 this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's lovely. And he's obviously big fan and big supporter of you.
Couldn't have done it without him.
Absolutely.
He's worn many, many hats
Yes.
in this journey.
Yes, I know. So, how did you get to, which I'm intrigued by your walking the mourner's path, and there's 4 bullet points here. How did you get, and I'm just going to kind of hold this up a little bit. How did you get to doing this? From because I kind of see it as both sides of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got this one side with the math and the financials and all this, and then you got this other side which requires a lot of emotional, a lot of, empathy and intention.
Well, as I said, I saw many of my clients in the forensic space experience and struggle with loss. And one in particular was my first client as a CPA. She's still my client, and she's a dear friend, and she lost her husband many years ago and has experienced what we would call a complicated grief, a difficult grief. And I didn't know how to help her,
Right.
And she did all the right things and was still struggling.
Yeah.
So that was sort of always in the back of my mind. And then when we came to this area, we joined St. Mary's Episcopal Church in Daytona Beach. And I connected with one other member who was talking about starting a grief ministry. And so I said, I would love to help you. I've got experience starting things and running things. And,
Right.
She had particular experience with grief and grief ministries in the past. And so 2.5, 3 years ago now, we started looking for the right program. And we were specifically looking for a Christ-centered ministry. And we found this and said, this fits the bill. And it's only a part of what we do. We have sort of a 3-pronged approach
Okay.
now. It was great when you invited me to come in because I had an opportunity to go through some of our files and our reviews from
Right.
we've done over 30 participants now, men and women. Every journey is different.
Right.
But the pattern has been as follows. When one of our parishioners tells us about a loss, we plug them into a program that is actually part of the Stephen Ministries, which is a nationwide program, and we send them 4 books over the course of a year, spaced apart, which are about grief and grieving. After that year, when they're ready to start thinking about what would it look like to bring joy back into my life, we invite them to join Walking the Mourner's Path, which is an 8-week program. And we meet over 8 sessions, working through emotions, experiences, feelings, and asking the Holy Spirit to come in and heal and show us the way forward. And it's been a very powerful thing. And in the midst of all that, we have a small program called Grieving Through the Holidays, which we offer every year right before Thanksgiving.
That's a good one.
It's just a half-a-day program, but it talks about how to prepare.
It's hard.
Because that's tough.
Yeah.
That's probably, for most people, that's sort of the first, oh my gosh, what am I going to do moment,
It's pretty hard. Of course, we have Mother's Day coming up, and my kids keep asking me, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And, I'm kind of like, nothing.
Right.
But I bet I don't want to upset them. And then right after that is my birthday. So I've been through, my husband passed in October, so November, which was his favorite, Thanksgiving was his favorite holiday. And then we got into Christmas, which, another huge. And then it was his birthday. Then it was Valentine's Day.
Right.
It just, and then Easter. And now here we are at the point of the birthday, which sometimes I take out his cards and read them, that I still maintained. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I still do that.
That's great.
How did you pick this particular curriculum? What about it spoke to you?
We felt like it was a good balance of the work that needs to be done and prayer. A lot of prayer in this program. We start every session with prayer.
Right.
And it has some experiential exercises in every session. We start and end with prayer every session. We do call on different scriptural readings, and a little bit of mental health, scattered in there as well. So we felt like it had a really good balance, and we are facilitators.
Right.
We're not teachers.
Right.
And so we allow the people who are participating in the class to sort of guide the
Kind of guide
movement,
it. Yeah.
to have it suit their needs, which has worked out really, really well.
I can see where that would be important.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than sitting there with all these things going on inside of you pent up, and you've got to go through 15 pages and you're like,
Right.
just get me out of here. I don't think I can do it.
What I find is it's really one of the first times for some of our participants where they sit with peers
Others.
and talk about what is it that they're feeling inside,
Right.
That they can honestly talk about
Right.
without worrying about offending someone
Right.
or bringing someone else down. And they begin to see some of what they're experiencing is the same. Some of it is not. And it's okay. It's appropriate for you. And then we talk through what's next. How can you take that next step if you're ready to take that next step?
So how did you figure on the year? Is that something that's research based, or
I believe it is. We have a screening program that we go through when someone expresses an interest. You have to be ready. And that's why we use the Stephen Ministry books, because we believe that helps you
pave the
get
way.
ready to sort of consider some things, and then when you're ready to move on, we've seen some powerful transformations
That's amazing.
and joyful transformations, and that's very heartening.
And you do some other things at your church as well to make people feel welcome, correct?
We're a great church.
Yeah.
We're just an
good.
amazingly welcome church.
That's good.
It's the oldest in Daytona Beach.
Wow.
Little tiny, beautiful building. But the people are extraordinarily welcoming. And so what's happened is some of our participants, not everybody that participates goes to our church,
Right.
but those that do. So now they've formed this little group that sits in a certain area.
And they can go
of
to
the
church together.
And they sit together. We call
love
it the
that.
Widow's Corner.
Yeah.
And when my husband isn't in town, I sit with them.
Sure.
And it is an interesting feeling. And we do a lot of social activities around different holidays, so people can come and be together and have fellowship. And as a matter of fact, all the people in the grief program are now getting together soon to talk about, well, what else can we do?
Yeah,
How
that's good.
else can we support?
Yeah.
Because we now begin to have a little critical mass for input.
Yeah, they can reach out too.
Yeah.
So how come you came to an 8-week? And is that start finish, or do people come back, or?
That's a beginning to end.
Okay.
The program was actually written by an Episcopal bishop
Uh-huh.
and is now administered out of, I believe the name of the church is St. Andrew's in the Desert, which is out west.
How pretty.
So, yeah, it's a beautiful,
Yeah, it
beautiful
sounds nice.
place. So if you're interested in the program, you can go to mournerspath.org and learn more about it. They train facilitators, so when we decided to choose this program, my colleague and I went to the training to learn, what to do, what not to do.
Right.
And the 8 weeks is sort of the right amount of time, it seems. We tried putting it into a shorter period of time because we have a lot of things going on in the community that we thought might interfere, and it worked. But we just did one that was 8 weeks, and it was perfect.
Better.
It was perfect.
So you're adjusting based on what you're seeing, which
Yes.
is what, in my world, what we do in terms of education.
Right.
You obviously begin something and then you try to see, well, what's the outcome? Did this work? Did this not? And see if you can try to
Yeah.
restructure it so you can get the best out of it. But I would think you'd need that long to have people even open up.
Right. Get comfortable with the dialogue,
Right.
get comfortable with things that come up
Right.
that maybe they haven't talked to others about before
Mm-hmm.
or aren't ready, to discuss. And but we really haven't had a problem with people participating, which I
Good.
was surprised.
Yeah.
I thought we'd have to do things to get people to engage.
They're
And
looking for an outlet, probably.
I think so. Yeah.
So, do you see any marked differences between your widows and your widowers?
Men do grieve differently.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah. They the fewest participants.
Are men.
We've had a couple of men.
Yeah.
And we have a couple more coming on board soon. We have one male facilitator who his experience of the facilitator training was different, and yet he said one of the things that he was looking for is to be able to be helpful, not just to stand there, and be grim or whatever he felt like was the appropriate behavior at a funeral, And but yeah, men do grieve differently, and they take a little longer to open up, and then they also have a lot of the same feelings.
Right.
Yeah.
I do. I can see the taking longer to open up. You have the 4 bullets. I wondered if you'd talk a little bit about that. In the small group workshops with individuals, you want them to do these things.
Right.
So the first one is acknowledge the pain and the brokenness.
Yeah.
So do you think most people try to run from it, or?
If it weren't a program that asked you to be ready for this, I would say yes. But what we have found is by the time they come to us and are ready to participate in this, they have sat with that for a while, and they get that that's holding them back. And so I had a participant this last time. She said, I don't know what's going to be next.
Right.
I can't imagine.
Can't vision it.
What joy would look like without him. But I want to try.
Right.
And she is a transformed woman.
That's great.
And it's, we just said, let the Holy Spirit guide you. That's what will happen. We're not going to have the answers for you, but he does,
Right.
And it has been a powerful experience to watch.
But just like anything that I guess you're going through, you have to acknowledge first that you have an issue, and that's something that you're not quite able to overcome yourself, and you need help. There's no doubt about it. The next one, recognizing the journey that's through grief is unique, and I think we have talked about that. But sometimes you feel like you're the only one going through this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I talk to a lot of people, and as I talk to them and I hear their stories, kind of pulls me back because, yes, I was married for 50 years, and that holds with it a lot of deep feelings and grief. But there's a lot of people that, could have happened to them when they were 30.
Right.
Or they have little children, or, there's all these different kinds of scenarios. So you kind of have to remember that, yes, you're unique and your walk is unique, but there's others.
That's right. And those others often experience many of the same things. And we hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Where, oh, yeah, I remember when I felt that way,
Right.
And sometimes they've already moved past that, and other times it just comes up to them.
Comes back up to them.
And so it's an opportunity to address it and then work through it.
And so sharing stories, this must be a little hard. Sharing stories, struggles, and victories.
Yes.
Victories I can see, but the stories and the sharing of the struggles.
You do hear a lot of pain. You do. You hear a lot of challenges, some which they bring to the group without answers, and in some respects, they're looking for answers, but the healing of the Holy Spirit seems to help put that into place for them. I'm thinking of one particular participant who had a particularly challenging time before the loss of her loved one, and she said, this is exactly what I needed to let go of that pain and be able to see it just is what it is. I can't change it. I couldn't have changed it. And now I'm continuing on with my life.
But if you're, the hard part about that, and I see both of us in the same way, is if you're a type A personality, you're used to solving problems and you're used to fixing things, and now you've got this, and it's not something you can fix,
Right.
and you can't pray it away. You kind of feel like you kind of feel like you're stuck.
Yeah.
With that, and you're not used to how to deal with that.
Right. Being stuck is tough.
It's very, very, very hard. It's hard. And you're not sure which way to go. And I can see where that would be a problem for some people that are, and again, I'm sure as far as I'm concerned, I think there's also a lot of guilt, whether you did stuff or you didn't. The whole fact that you couldn't fix it.
Right.
You couldn't save them.
Right.
I think sticks with you.
Absolutely.
And it's not a good feeling. Right. So then hopefully you do hear from people that do find healing and joy.
Yes. Yes, we do.
And that must give you great.
Oh my gosh, it's such a great feeling, because what we do at the end of every session, after the 8 weeks, we ask them to fill out a confidential evaluation, which goes to our rector. And then we as a group, the facilitators and the prayer partners who are part of the team, we do what we call an after-action report. And we talk about what worked, what didn't work, what can we do differently, what have we learned.
I love that.
And every time there's, there are new ideas and new feedback and an opportunity for us to celebrate joy.
And you had to be willing to get your ego out of it in order to see what works and which doesn't work,
True.
right?
True, yeah.
Well, I'm really grateful that you came. I'm grateful that you have used all your gifts and talents to kind of branch out and do this other thing, which you've helped a number of people. So I want to thank you. If you want any of these for your groups, I'll be happy to share with you.
Great.
And I'm sure the things you have are really like top-notch professional. I just want everybody to remember that very soon we're going to be providing you with a place where you can kind of write in and get your comments out there or get your questions. And we will try to have a session where we just go to that and answer that. And that we have had a lot of people on, as with Simone, that are experts in a lot of different fields. Just yesterday, we had one with a physician. So I think that was well received. But please follow us, go back. I think we've done 10 already, 10 or 12. So we would love to have you. And remember, we really want you to remember that God is with the brokenhearted. His word says that he has beauty for ashes. There's a lot of scripture, and I don't know all of it, but I try to go back and find some because I need that, but that what he's doing in our lives is for our good and not for our harm. And we have to stick with that. We have to know that, and we have to believe that. And I guess I'm speaking to myself right now because it is hard. It is really hard to do that. But please try to go back, watch our episodes. Flagler Voice. Thank you, Flagler Voice. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, any of the major, Facebook, and just go to look for Flagler Voice. And then under that, you can look at the podcast and you'll see The Widow Speaks. So I'm going to sign off for now. Dr. Phyllis Edwards, and I hope you have a beautiful and a blessed day. Thank you. Did we hit the mark?